All right, it's time for the greatest coffee live show on the internet. What's going on, everybody? This is the Lavazza. What's happening? I'm Jay, your host, here on the OnoCoffee channel. The Coffee Q&A, daily dose of Coffee Q&A, 10 a.m., most Monday through Fridays. How's it going, Naomi? Good to see you. How's everything happening? So today we have a bit of a dubious episode for you. The question of not whether I've been naughty or nice in 2024 perhaps will be answered by today's coffee. We're going back to the Lavazza. This is the Lavazza Gran Filtro. Kent, good afternoon. And these are, I think, little pod coffees. Okay, I got this probably at one of the hotels that I stayed in, and I thought, I'm going to get one of these, and let's see about how they would do. And so I thought, let's give it a try. So we've got here Cafe Filtro. So these are, I'm feeling it. It feels like they're like in little pods. They probably came with one of those hotels where they have the little machines. You have a little tray that has this like pod holder. You put the thing in the tray and you slide it in. You put the water in the unit. It heats it up and then brews you a cup of coffee. So yeah, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. Rusty, good morning to you. What's the squeaky noise? Is there a squeaky noise? Anyone else hear it? Oh, maybe. Okay, there's a noise. Let's see. Maybe it is where I put the microphone today. Has that cleared it up? Let me put it further down my body. Is that better? Is that better? Is that better? No, still noisy. Still noisy. Oh, you know what it could be? Hold on. Let me walk around here. I have the receiver of the wireless plugged into a power source. Let me unplug that. Has that made any changes? Okay, good now. Rusty says good now. Okay, good. We will never do that again. All right. So good. Peter says we have aliens. Peter, I thought you were away this week. What happened? Well, good to see you nonetheless. Good to see you all. Rusty, Mum, Naomi, Kent, Peter. Okay, so this is the Lavazza. We're going to go straight into it. There's not too much to talk about. Lavazza is well known to all of you, to everyone. And let's see, what does it say here? It says Lavazza. Oh, you focus in. Lavazza is Italy's favorite and a number one selling coffee. Founded in 1895 by Luigi Lavazza, today the company is the world's largest family-owned roaster. We invite you to experience the coffee that more than 35 million people around the world enjoy every day. Okay. And what does it say here? Oh, it says it's a full-bodied coffee, a full-bodied blend of 100% Arabica coffees. Its bold and distinctive recipe features a balance of smoky and caramelized flavors. Wow. Best before the date shown on the product, on the packet, which is there a date on the packet? These guys always put a date on the packet. There's a date right there. And it's so hard to read that I can only read it if we can read it through the camera. Good Lord. If Naomi wants to, is it a dark roast? I would suspect based on that description that the answer would be yes. Here it says. It says something, I think it says 10 or 6, 18, 2023. Definitely says 2020. Does it say that? 2023? I think it says 2023. Okay, that's 2023. Oh, this looks like it says 4. Look at that in the edge there. That looks like it says 4. Something 05, 30. Oh, so 30 of 06 or 05. There's an O there. So 6 or 5. So maybe let's say 30th of June, 2024 is the expiry, is the sell-by date. Okay, so there it is. We're talking 6 months old beyond the date. So it's roasted and packaged in June of 2023. because they normally put a year out on these things. Because it's smoky. Yeah, well, I mean, that's what they said. You know, they said here that the features a balance of smoky and caramelized flavors. So we will only have to go on that. But let's get into it. Let me just make sure the water is getting nice and hot for us, because it's a real simple way to brew, right? We're just going to take this and brew it. Super easy. So let's open it up here. Let's open it up. We like to try old, we do love to try old coffees here. Because you know what? We talk about fresh coffees. Fresh coffees are easy. It's the old coffees that are hard. Okay, so it does have that little pod thing that I was talking about. Now these, whoa. It does have that caramelized, smoky aroma. Not necessarily a positive thing. Like it's, my goodness. My goodness. Yeah, that is the coffee that most people know, I'm sure. Okay, so let's see first of all about how much this weighs. How much coffee do we really have in here? So let's get our little fellow Tally Pro. Let's put it in the different modes so we can see bigger size. 9.2 grams. So let's make a presumption that this pot is 2 grams, 0.2 grams, right? So we're going to say that this is 9 grams, which is 2 grams for every finished ounce. We're talking 4 ounces. So just about 4 ounces for this. So just like we would think, it is a cup. A cup is typically 4 ounces. So what we're going to do is we're going to use 2 packets to make an 8-ounce cup, right? And we might even use our trusty, Ken says smoky is a scary note. It is a scary, especially when it reveals itself to be. Yeah, not so great. But we're gonna find out. Because we remain undaunted here and unable to open the packaging. Okay, so now we got 9.2. We should have 18.4. Oh, actually, man, these guys are good. Look at that, 18.5. This is what you call precision manufacturing. Like, these guys are so about the precision in the manufacturing process. Like, there's very little deviance. So now we're going to do it 18.5 grams, which will be easy to replicate. We don't even have to worry today about retention in a grinder, which is a wonderful thing. So we'll put this back here. 178. We're going to tear that out. Oh, we're going to switch modes. We're going to use the brew assist. We're going to use our typical ratio, 1 then to 14.5. We're going to put these in there. It's going to tell us 268 grams of water. How easy is that? Does it smell old? Yeah. Oh, it smells, I don't know if it smells old. It certainly doesn't smell appetizing. That's like, there's no part of me that's really looking forward to trying the coffee, but we're going to try it nonetheless because that's what we do here. Smoky equals, yeah, that is how it always is. The only thing I say is 114, it's 114 point, it's 1 to 14.5 to be exact. Your usual ratio of pour, I don't know. Like, I always thought it was 1 to 16. I never really calculated these kind of like ratios. Like, my friends in the Philippines, they're very much about the ratios like that. I always thought about it in terms of 2 grams per finished ounce. So for me, it was always 2 grams to 350 milliliters of water. And it wasn't until we got this scale and started using the brew assist where it actually, basically all I did was I dialed in how much water I wanted to have here, or I dialed this around to figure out how much water it was for 350, and it just tells me that it's 1 is to 14. So I guess I normally use that. So now we're going to, let's reset our scale here. Okay, so we've got everything ready. We're going to hit that button. Now we're just going to pour straight from the kettle into our, and we can add the whole thing at the same time because we just need steeping time. We're going to add it all. We're going to go straight to 266 grams. Whoa, 67. Well, I almost lost that one. And we're now going to just let it steep. We're going to let it steep. As you can see, we're just going to let full immersion happen. Now, typically when you're brewing with this in your hotel room, it is flowing through it. But I thought today we'll just do it this way. We might need to slosh around. What I might do is also put the lid on top here so that we can retain the heat. And we're letting the timer run. So we're only at 40 seconds. We're going to let it go for 3 minutes. Just let it sit there for 3 minutes, do its thing. Now there is a little bit of, there could be some issue. You can see here the pod has, bubbled a little bit, so it's not full immersion like it should be, like we want it to be. Like this is probably a bad idea. This will probably not get us the results that we would like. Part of me wants to puncture a hole in this just to break that, or I can just press down on it and squeeze the air out of it, which would render it a little bit nicer. Let's see here that there's definitely some notes of defect. It doesn't smell heavily charred, but it does smell a bit defecty. But we'll find out. We're going to taste, because it's really hard to say that when we talk about this. Kent says that 1 to 14 is my starting point for all immersion. Well then this should give us a good representation of what you would experience at home should you make the dubious decision of buying these. Naomi says, is there a cafe I can go to where they will make me a good pour over, light type and near you? Wow, they're near you. That is, the near you part is really the difficult one. I think probably I haven't been there. I've only been there once. It's been quite a while, maybe a couple of years since I've been there, but Ragamuffins might be a good spot in Laurel. After that, you really have to come to Baltimore. Like you'll probably want to visit some places. If you're willing to drive to Baltimore, some places to consider visiting would be Deer Globe Coffee on Saratoga. Is it Saratoga? No, it's not. Maybe it's on Saratoga. I don't know what street, but Deer Globe Coffee is a good spot. Who else would be good to visit in Baltimore? Sophomore Coffee is good. Vent will be good. Catalog, Good Neighbor. Actually, Catalog, Vent, and Good Neighbor are all kind of in the same Hamden area where I used to have a shop. What's it called? Sophomores down in Govin's Midtown area. Not Govin's Midtown, but I'm going to say Midtown Belvedere, but Midtown area. 25th Street and Maryland Avenue, right around there, somewhere right around there. It's been a while since I've been there as well. And then Deer Globe is a little bit more closer to the Lexington Market. And then if you want to go to Kent, and the other side of it is a place called Wondu. Wondu I've done some consulting for. They're very nice. They're very nice over there. So that might be something we do. 33:35. So we need to stop now and, okay, we just fish out. I'm just going to fish out our pods here. And we're just going to fish them out and toss them in the trash. Or actually, maybe we'll keep one of them to review. Okay, good. Nate says, I love Ragamuffins, but I always get their latte. Never tried pour over. I will. Yeah, I mean, I don't recall what I had there, but I mean, that's probably the closest place to you that would be, focused on that kind of brewing. I don't know if they actually have that kind of brewing, to be honest with you, but they are a very nice cafe, and so they were very nice people when I was there. So how are these pods typically brewed? So typically these pods are designed for food service use, right? So they come like this, and they expand it a little bit. Now these things will actually be brewed in a commercial food service, in a hotel room brewer. So there are these brewers that are little tiny units that use the same type of thermoblock heating source that like Mr. Coffee uses, which is there's actually a guy online. I'll have to look him up, but Technology Connections is I think his name, younger guy, and he's really his videos run like whenever I see his videos come off my feed, I always like. I don't want to click on them because they're like 35 minutes long or something like that. They're pretty long, but he's pretty interesting. So he had this one video he did two videos that are related to what we do. He did one about brewing kettles, like, the electric kettles. How come we don't use them in America? And then he did a video on how Mr. Coffee or consumer grade machines, coffee brewers, heat their water and how do they work. And it's actually really, really excellently done. Like he's a great YouTuber and presents a lot of really interesting information. He had this one recently about, I didn't watch it, but it looked like something, it looked like one of my pet peeves. Like, we have extension cords in America, right? These extension cords. And he kind of was, I think it's going to be him railing on these extension cords. These are your typical home extension cords you get from Home Depot, Lowe's, or whatever, or Ace Hardware. And the problem with these is these are 16 gauge wire, right? So 16 gauge wire actually sucks, right? It doesn't really carry. And this is why they say don't link them together. Don't do all this stuff, because 16 gauge wire is really narrow. And the ones that really irritate me, you go to like Home Depot and they have these extension cords that are like nice and thick on the insulation. You're like, oh man, that's pretty good. It must be 12 gauge. No, it's still 16 gauge. They just put thicker sheathing on it. And you're like, oh my gosh. And the problem with 16 gauge wires is that the higher the number on your wires, the thinner they actually are, which means they give greater resistance and can be more prone, depending on how much current you're pulling through it. It can be more prone to melting down and creating a fire, which is why you don't really want to run extension cords on your espresso machines or some of your heavier appliances because of that factor, because extension cords suck. Like, you have to go out, and the amount of money they charge for like 12 gauge extension cords is kind of obscene. So from my motion picture days, we would actually make our own extension cords. We'd go down and get the 12-3 wire or 12-2 wire. No, actually, I think in Romex, you say 12-2, and that means that it's got black, white, green, or neutral. But in cabling, I think you do say, let's say 12-3, which means it's got black, red, and green. I can't remember exactly. It's been a while. But what we do is we buy the cable. Go to Home Depot, buy like the cable, like 25 feet. Like typically they come in 25-foot length. So you buy 25 feet of that. You buy two really nice female-male connectors, 20 amp connectors or 15 amp connectors, whatever you want. And then you make your own extension cables. In the movie terms, we would call them stingers. So you make your own stingers, and you would just have a pile of them at home, like maybe 3-4 of them at home, and it would cost you a small percentage, or not a small, but a considerably amount less than if you bought them commercially, and they're better in many respects. Now they have the new ones that have all this like molded stuff that's clear. It has these lights on it, so the LED lights, and that it's running. Those are kind of nice. If you can get them for cheap, buy those. Yeah, so small Mr. Coffee, back to that. So small Mr. Coffee type. And like the ones that I've seen have little sleds, and there's the little contraption, you put the sled in, you put the pod in the sled, to put the sled inside the machine, you put your cup, whatever, the 12-ounce cup, put it in there. And that's what they'll give you, like paper cups, like a 12-ounce cup, but they're only giving you like a pod that's good for 4-ounce ratio. So you're getting a very watery coffee, which might be all right because depending on how it tastes, it might be a little bit better. And then you add the water, turn it on, it does its thing. It's really a no muss, no fuss kind of situation. So for most people drinking coffee in a hotel room, it's really, I think, very convenient. Not the greatest taste. Oh, well, I shouldn't comment on the taste without actually tasting it. Busa's with us. What's going on, Busa? It says, brewing good coffee company, which is not that far from Laurel in Savage. Oh, there we go, Savage. I think that's even closer to That's in the old Savage Mill, right? I think I've been to that one. I did forget about that one. Neil, good morning to you, man. How are you? Happy holidays as well. Okay, so let us get to the tasting. Now, here's interesting. The aroma is not alluring. However, it's not, I'm surprised I'm saying this, but it's not repudiating as well. I like that SAT term. All right, so let's pour out and see what we got here with our elixir today. Let me get this scale out of the way. I'm about to poison. I could be. So not bad looking, like relatively clear, right? Okay, so kind of, I was going to say kind of dirty because that's what I was expecting. But I can't say that it's dirty because dirty implies a really negative aspect of the coffee. Like it would be like dirty because there's like CBD damage from it. I can't say that that's the case. Now, I did notice, I did include a link to Amazon in case you want to see some of these coffees for yourself. And under the Gran Filtro label, evidently they have quite a range. They have a light roast as well as dark roast. I'm going to venture to say this is their light roast because it's not very dark. It's not very harsh. It's actually, okay, so it's, what I was going to say was because it's dirty. I won't say it's dirty. I'm going to say it's earthy. It's got an earthiness to it. It's a mild coffee. It's not terribly descript. A little bit dry on the finish, but overall very neutral. To be honest, this is perhaps what I should have expected from Lavazza. Meaning that when you go to Italy and let's say, Italy is populated by espresso, right? Their espresso is everywhere. And the espresso on a national level is fairly pleasant, right? You could be driving along the autostrada, right? Their highway system there, and like you go to the whatever the auto, what do they call the auto? You guys will know auto something that basically the roadside service center, like where you like here in America we have the New Jersey Turnpike, and it's it's food courts and stuff like that. It's essentially the same thing. You go there. And I've been there and I've gone and bought like espresso. Like I remember one time I was driving back from Geneva all the way to Maranello after flying in overnight and then driving from Milan all the way to Geneva, hanging out with a buddy of mine, and then driving back through France all the way, all in one day, which was a mistake. I was totally exhausted, but I stopped by this autostrad and I was like, I gotta get some. They had espresso, Euro 50 or whatever it was at the time. Pleasant. Very, nothing amazing as far as espresso goes, but very pleasant, like easy to drink, approachable. And this is what reminds me of that. Not terribly amazing, but not horrific. Which I'm really, again, surprised that it's not horrific. We are drinking today, O'Neill, the Lavazza Gran Filtro, which, I gotta say, it's not charred. I have to, it's upside down. So this is the Gran Filtro. And like I said, I did notice that there is a version of this that's dark as well as light. And like this, let's say this packaging is like, 2 years old now. And the only ad that I saw online that had this color, this same packaging in a bag, was one that they called their light roast. So I'm thinking this could be their light roast. It doesn't really say on this particular package, but the flavor certainly doesn't lend to like heavy roasting. Dwight Rains, Merry Christmas, Capadero. Merry Christmas to you, Ed, as well. Naomi says, I heard Lavazza blends and roasts their own beans so that they can still be joined months down the road and will still produce good amount of crema. Yeah, I think this is true. Here's the reality. I think that, part of the reason why you see me drinking so many coffees that are old. I mean, a big reason of that is because I have so much coffee that I never get through it. And, I don't drink that much coffee, right, personally. So, but the other side of it is because I kind of am interested in exploring more like older coffees, like how old can a coffee be before it really is terrible? Like if you get, at least in our case, if you're getting nice quality coffees, we talk about, 2 months is too old. Is it really? I don't know. We've had some coffees here that are actually quite pleasant to drink. So I don't know. But I think it's worth exploring because, like most people will have coffees and, you may toss in your freezer, you might not. Let's explore more. I like to explore that. I think that's just kind of fascinating to me because it kind of challenges our perceptions on that. But how does it produce crema when it's old beans? I don't know. I mean, I would imagine that you could probably get crema from old coffee, perhaps because you're using Robusta as part of the blend. That would be my very superficially educated guess on that, as far as like how to get crema out of old coffee. But also now what thing with Lavazza and let's say Segafredo as well as Illy, they have, these are companies that are very different than, let's say, my company or Black and White or any of these other companies that you may know about here in the specialty world. DAC, La Cabra, all these other companies. We do not have the processing or the manufacturing that these guys have. Like, we talk about, freshness and all that, but really these guys have the processes to knock our socks off in many respects. So these guys can nitrogen flush, do all this packaging, to preserve as much as possible the experience that they want. Now, you can't really get away from the age or the distance and the travel and anything that happens along the supply chain, which are all potentially going to affect the flavor of the coffee. But they put a tremendous amount of resources into trying to preserve the flavor of their coffee for as long as possible. So they probably have technology that would do some of that, but I don't know much about it because that's not really part of the world that I am able to inhabit. Yeah. I don't have a great answer. I don't have a great answer. I guess I don't have a great answer. Okay, let's go with something. So this is actually quite pleasant. I'm surprised to say that, but I wanted to share with you a little bit of things here from the Christmas time. This big green, this big purple log is what we call in the Philippines called pianono. Pianono is basically like a chiffon cake that is cooked flat and then is rolled. Right, so you can see it's rolled like that. Oh, let me get the light. Rolled like that with whipped cream, or what we could call chantilly, if you're fancy. And one of my favorite ingredients on this side, you can see it a lot better from the side. This has, if you look here, there's this kind of like translucent looking worms, right? This is what we call makpuno. And makpuno is basically, I think what it basically is if you take your young coconut, right? You split the young coconut, and then you take this kind of like carving device, which has little imagine like a melon baller, but instead of making balls, it cuts extrusions, right? So these are basically young coconut extrusions. So you get flavor and texture of coconut, very light coconut. But very popular, very popular. And then what I have here is a little pan de sal, right? And this this pianono is made by Antoinette, one of the women in Baltimore that makes food, and she gave this to my family as a gift for Christmas. Thank you very much, Antoinette. And then this pan de sal, which we've talked about pan de sal before. This is a pan de sal. Basically, it's the ubiquitous Filipino daily bread, leavened with yeast and wheat flour. Right. These two are kind of like offshoots of like colonialism because they have wheat in them. Especially this. I think this comes from the American era, right? After the Americans like totally wiped out our country and enslaved the Filipino people under their dominion, they also brought wheat. And so we started having bread. I know it sounds more whatever than it is. But this was actually made by my cousin Raymond, and he's been working on making pan de sal. And I remember like 6 months or so ago, he brought some over, and I gotta say, the pan de sal he made was the very best pan de sal I've ever had anywhere. I was like, holy God, this is amazing. Like this, if he can recreate this on a consistent level, it would be awesome. Now, this is the problem with baking, is that it's extremely difficult to recreate brilliance on a consistent level. And he has not been able to maintain that level of consistency that I would love to see. This one I think will be good, but I'm only mentioning that not to diss on him, but just because it is such a difficult thing to get. There's so much about hydration, the quality of all your ingredients, and everything that goes along with it. Temperature ranges are super important, especially for bread making. So it is really a difficult situation or difficult process. Devin, hello, how are you, man? Good to see you. What makes the cake purple? So in this particular case, so this is ube cake, is ube flavored, right? So ube is a tuber that is endemic to the Philippines, right? It's from the Philippines. It is a big part of Philippine cuisine and culture. And like for the last, 5 years or so, it's been going wild in America. Like, wow, people are wild for purple stuff, right? Personally speaking, I grew up with eating ube. So to me, it's no big deal. Like, I'm like, okay, ube. I don't need to have ube everything. Like, and here's one of the problems, right? Ube as a product in cuisine is exploding worldwide, at least in America. I don't know about worldwide, but exploding. Production in the Philippines of ube, which is the only place that really produces it, is down by 50%. How is this even possible that ube is exploding in popularity, but it's reduced, but production is reduced by 50%? Like production is down, and it's dwindling. And you're like, what the hell? How could that be possible, right? Like if it's getting popular, it should be more. Why is it getting popular? Because people are using manufactured artificial flavoring and colors to make it instead of actually using the true ube. And if you go to places that are saying that they got real ube, they're probably lying. They're probably using purple yams, which are not the same. Purple yams are sweeter. Purple yams have a different texture. True ube is really very subtle and very delicate in flavor. So if you're out there looking at ube, you ask them, challenge them. Hey, where'd you get the ube from? Did you get it from the Philippines? No? Well, then later's for you, baby. Later's for you. That's what I'm doing now. Because I'm like, but again, I'm not drinking ube lattes. Like, I don't care about that. Like, I've tried them. They're nice. They kind of have an ube-ish flavor, but no. Just give me something, So that's what makes the cake purple. In this case, I'm going to venture that Antoinette uses the ube flavoring, probably one of the ones imported from the Philippines, but it is not. It is something that is a little bit sad that its production is dwindling. Espresso and Bikes, what's going on, man? How are you? Do you put the cake on the bread and make challenge accepted, my friend? So let us look here. We're going to take the Pianono and we're going to, it's a little bit, because this is the wrapped end, it's a little bit dirty. We're going to cut this off and make it pretty. Right? Look, there we go. Now we have the pretty end. Right? A little bit nicer. Okay, good. So now, normally we will take well, first of all, let's have a taste of this. How do you eat pan de sal? Typically you eat it hot. And I could totally do the whole Top Chef thing and pretend that this is all still hot and I'm enjoying it hot, but I'm not. It's totally cold. And I'm using butter. This is Kerrygold butter. And it's also, well, it's soft now. It's not, so it's nice. So it's got a nice spreadability. So this is how you typically eat it. You could split it open, or you could just, I like to slather it in butter. I don't know if this is truly how we do it in the Philippines, or because this is my Americanism coming through, but I love to slather it in butter. Just give it. This with some ham and some cheese, whether it's the queso de bolo we talked about a couple of days ago, or this, or any kind of cheese, fine. That's okay. Okay, now let us look here. We should probably taste this on its own separately. Let's taste this separately. So this particular pandesal, nice. Not, it's one of his better versions, but not to the level of, like the one that he made, the first one that I had was like it was like, you're like, I was really like, holy God, this is really good. This is very good. It's not holy God good though. Okay, so soft, sweet. The thing about the macapuno, it's not like gelatin, like it's harder than gelatin, so it's got this nice, not chew, but kind of a, right? You know, when you're biting something, it kind of flexes and gives, flexes, gives, flexes like that. Love that, right? So that gives that kind of texture to the bread or to the cake. So that's really lovely. And it's, of course, like with most Filipino sweets, it's very lightly sweet, right? It's not tremendously sweet. Okay, so here we are. El Sandwich de Pianono. Actually kind of attractive looking there. Cool. Of course. How could it be wrong? A little bit of sweet, a little bit of chew, a little bit of like dairy. Actually, what we're missing here, I spy these little pieces here of the ube cake and the macapuno, right? We need that. We need to put that here and continue with the biting. Oh. This is for Naomi. It's good. This is what my friends do. When I'm in Tokyo and I'm hanging out with like Muniko and Naoko, they're always like, whenever they eat something really good, it's like, oh, all right. The bread is crunchy. Well, I did toast the bread. I heated the bread a little bit before we started, so it does give it a little bit of crustiness to it, which I like crustiness to my breads. I mentioned before that's why I like the macapuno. I like textural juxtaposition in foods. It just gives more of a dynamic experience, I think. So, espresso and bites was like, makes a sandwich. This is actually pretty darn good. But I'm Filipino, right? So Filipinos, normally in the Philippines, it is not uncommon for Filipinos to take the pandesal. And because they don't have necessarily access all the time to ice cream cones, yeah, that happens. Ice cream in your pandesal, oh yeah. It's not a thing, right? Like a thing would be something that you're doing because like it's a thing. It's just a way of life. It's a way of life there. Naomi says there is an Okinawan purple sweet potato called the beni imo that often gets, Oh, I've not tried that one. I would love to go to Okinawa. Like I said, one of my good friends, Hiroko, her maiden name is Hiroko Kinjo. She was from Okinawa. She married my friend Chan. But I was always fascinated with Okinawa. And then I was like, so fascinated that it's so far away from Tokyo. It's like super far. So that's why it's always kind of warm, right? Busa says that I love my ube soft serve from Lapu Lapu and there's a Lapu Lapu in Gaithersburg. I'm going to have to go check that out. So is Lapu Lapu just a dessert place, like an ice cream shop, or is it like a restaurant? Or because I'm not familiar with that. The only like the Filipino restaurants that I'm familiar with outside of Baltimore are, of course, Kuya Jaws, which is the lechon belly place. So if you're interested, so if you imagine like they do this style of lechon that's from the region called Cebu, the central part, the Visayan part of the Philippines, central part of the Philippines. And what they do is they take the lechon belly, right, or the pork belly, and they season it, add lemongrass and garlic, and roll it like this. And then they roast it. So you've got this like crispy belly roll of pork to eat with your rice. And for me, I like it with copious amounts of rice, what people would consider obscene amounts of rice. Obscene. We want obscene amounts. What you want is obscene amounts of rice with your what we call ulam. Ulam, U-L-A-M. Ulam is like the meat or whatever protein that you're having with your rice, with your kanin, which is the rice, right? Like in Japan, right? We say it's time it's time to kanin, right? It's time to eat. But we also call rice kanin. So very much like, I think in Japanese, the rice is called gohan. And then you're going to have your gohan, like your meal is also called gohan. Is that right? Am I getting that right, Naomi? It's been a while since I've studied Nihongo. So I could be wrong, but I think it's very similar. Now we're gonna dip it in coffee. You should have said that a few moments ago when I still hadn't finished it. But we sloshed it around in the mouth, so it's kind of the same, right? Kind of the same. Dipping it in coffee. Busa loves Kuya Jazz. Oh, and it's the same owner. Okay, awesome. Gaithersburg, man. Gaithersburg is far. Like Rockville's far enough, right? But Gaithersburg, like, man. Well, I guess it's all kind of the same. There's a couple places I wanted. There's a pizza joint around Gaithersburg that I wanted to check out. Maku says, funny how we share similar words with very different meanings. There's a Puerto Rican food called pianono, which is, similar name, but very different. Interesting. Well, in the Philippines, we have this little rice cake, right? Which I grew up eating and I love. Like, it's a rice cake. Looks kind of like mini muffins. And it's rice cake, lightly sweet, really nice. And then sometimes you put like a slice of cheese over it. So it's really awesome. We call that puto. So it wasn't until I learned Spanish much later in life that I was like, oh, puto. Would you like some puto? But, that's not as bad as like other words. Like I had a girlfriend once that was from Mexico, and she was like, never say me vale verga. And I was like, what? Me vale verga? What does that mean? She's like, just don't ever say that. Like it would be irreparable for you to say that. I was like, really? Good Lord, I better not know. But essentially it means like, it is probably the harshest meaning of like, I don't give a damn. And not damn, right? Like it's the heart. Evidently, I still don't understand the true meaning of it because it's not of my culture, but I'm like, it's just, these are it's like Voldemort. These are the words never to be spoken. Like in a relationship, you never speak those words. If you speak those words, you're totally hosed, right? So just a little thought. I see, Naomi's right here. Gohan is rice and also a meal. Same word. Yes. Okay, good. I remember. Inferno Pizza. I don't remember the name. I can look it up. There's a couple places in Gaithersburg, or at least, like I said, I put little pins on places that I want to go in the world. Here we are. Here's a couple places in Gaithersburg I'd like to check out. Oh, Han Spot all day dim sum. Oh, all day dim sum. God knows that's a good thing. Isaac's Poultry Market. Oh, I heard these guys have amazing chicken sandwich. Oh, yeah, you're right. Inferno Pizza Napolitana. Perfect. You're totally right. How is that place? Awesome. Awesome. We'll have to go check that out. Now, you said it was called Lapu Lapu. Okay, I'm going to put that in here too now. Lapu Market Street West in Gaithersburg. I'm going to put that here on places to go. Want to go. There we go. Busa said it was good. Okay, there we go. Busa said it was good. There we go. Done. Yeah, Malco understands. Yeah. All right. So here's, like I said, this is Pianono. So nice. It's a nice, if you can get to a Filipino market, and if you're in Maryland, there is a few Filipino markets around the area. One of the nicer ones, of course, is a place called Gwenny's in Rockville, also very associated with the Kuya Jaws. And there are enough Filipinos in the world, because you know what, we've sent Filipinos around the world, for whatever reason, because, opportunity sucks in the home country, evidently. So now there are Filipinos all over the world with all kinds of foods everywhere. But the interesting thing is that 12 years ago, when I used to go to Mexico City a lot, my girlfriend and her friends were like, how about we have Filipino food? And I was like, Filipino food? Where can we go for that? I was like, yeah, no problem. I can get Filipino food anywhere on the planet, right? Anywhere on the planet. It's like Chinese food. You get Chinese food everywhere, right? So I started looking on Google. I was like, there's no Filipino. I couldn't find any Filipino restaurants in Mexico City. This is one of the greatest capitals in the world, like one of the biggest cities on the planet. 20 million people. You'd think there's Filipinos here. You'd think that it's part of the Philippines was under Mexican governor rule. Right? It's all part of the Spanish Empire. So you would think there'd be Filipinos there or Filipino restaurants. And I was like, I couldn't find anything. So I was like, I got to find locals. So I called up the embassy of the Philippines in Mexico City. I get the consul general on the phone. I was like, hey, where's the Filipino restaurants in Mexico City? And she was like, there are none. I was like, what? Like, how is that even possible? So I ended up making a dinner for them of like Filipino pork adobo and stuff like that at one of the house at our friend's house that week. But I was like so shocked. I was like, wow. But most places, especially here in the United States, you will find Filipino restaurants. So you can get this kind of thing here if you're interested. It's worth trying out. It's worth trying out. The Japanese word for bread is pan. Oh, yes, pan. Yes. And Busa says that they do have great pizza. Oh, excellent. All right. It's just that Gaithersburg's so hard to get to. For me, it's so hard to get to. I need to go. JP says, mabuhay from California. Mabuhay pa rin. How are you today, man? Good to see you. And Devin says, get some crispy pork back. Oh, yeah, man, crispy. But you shouldn't eat that too much, right? Like you want to moderate your because if I was left to my own devices, I might just be eating, pork lechon and fried chicken pretty much every day of the week. So you got to temper that with salad, vegetables, tofu once in a while. Busa says Tess and Sons Market in Glen Burnie, and of course Mama Rosa. Oh yes, those are good. I've been to Tess and Sons. Actually, I was just there a few weeks ago. I was down doing something in that area. I was getting, what was I buying? Yeah, I think I was buying ube, like frozen ube. I need ube for something. And then I usually go to them. Well, a lot of times we'll go to a Mama Rosa. The other Mama Rosa is the first one. So there's the one by Baltimore Flea Market at Baltimore and Apples Boulevard. I usually go to the one in Middle River because it's a little bit easier to get to. But sometimes if I'm just really interested in just eating down home, like Kuya Jaws is really nice. And I'm imagining Lapu Lapu is very much in the same way. Or if you go down to DC, you go to a place like Hiraya, and those are very nice places. Like most Filipino joints, like I'm sure the ones that JP might know in California, they're more like the Mama Rosas, right? They're more like down home, or like where I like to go, James Fiesta Grill, right? They're very like down home, like Filipino joints. They're not like you go to Hiraya in DC, and Hiraya in DC is very much like hipster, like geared towards like fancy Americans, right? The places like, as you know, these are geared towards like Filipinos, like people that are just like from the Philippines and they just want to somewhere what we call turo-turo. And turo-turo, for those of you who might not be familiar, basically if you go to some of these Filipino restaurants, they have like a hot line, right? Like a what you might consider like a buffet line, right? Like a hot buffet kind of style setup, but it's not a buffet unless you're lucky. But they have these hotel pans and it's filled with all these different foods and they're all kind of being kept hot. Turo means to point. So you point. Turo is point, turo. And you just tell them what you'd like and they make a little plate for you to have whatever food you're interested in. You can have a whole mix of stuff, right? Like you can have adobong pusit, and adobong pusit is basically squid with vinegar, a sauce made of vinegar and soy sauce, which I totally haven't had in a long time, but I totally love. Like, especially when the pusit's cooked really long and it's all like pink looking and it's chewy with more of your rice. Again, copious amounts of rice. Like you go to some of these like newer school places, right? And they give you like this little tiny rice. You're like, what in the world am I going to do with that, dude? Like, what is that all about? Like, we went to this one place. We went to Hiraya in DC, and it's really nice. We had what they call the silogs, and silogs is basically there's something called top silog, TAPSILONG, and this is something when you're in Manila and you're out like in the 90s or the late 80s, you're out partying, and like you go to the top silog place. Like at 5 a.m, like, and it's outdoor, it's hot, you're sweaty, it's humid, it's kind of nice but miserable. There's fans, and you have your tapsilog, which is basically a dried beef tapa. So basically strips of dried beef, kind of not quite jerky-ish, right? Like not to that level, but dried, like seasoned and dried, and then pan fried. And then you have your sinangag, which is a fried rice that's really simple. So rice fried in oil with sugar and garlic, right? And then you have your itlog, which is the log part. And those are basically fried eggs, right? So you have that all together on a plate. And then you have like your vinegar and your hot peppers. So you mix it all together, you use it, and you just eat there like at 5 a.m. after clubbing all night long. You're just like, this is what you needed in life, right? Now they're all kind of fancy. But like, we went to this place, Hiraya, and they like gave you the silog, or they have the choice of like, you can have the beef tapa, you can have the longanisa, which is a sausage. So we order a whole spread. And they brought it out, and it's really pretty. And I was like, what is this rice? They had this like purple, black, like long grain, like wild rices. And I was like, what is that? What's going on here, man? Where's the white rice? I don't need fancy rice with this dish. This is the most common of common dishes, and you're giving me like elevation of fan. I'm not elevation, man. Like, I'm of the culture. What is this supposed to be? Oh, it was so funny. I was like, oh, this is so hilarious. And then later I realized I'm eating, and I'm thinking, there's something missing. And then I realized, where's the suka? Where is the vinegar, right? The vinegar with the garlic and the salt and the peppers. So I was like, man, that's what's missing. I went over to the kitchen. I was like, hey, do you guys have some vinegar here? It's like, shouldn't you be, I'm thinking, shouldn't you be giving this to us like automatically? It's like, do I need to ask? But, because I think that if you're going to have, Filipino foods for non-Filipinos, I think you should give them the full range of the flavor. Like, the beef tapa is good, but when you add the acid of the vinegar, man, so much more expressive, right? So much nicer. So, just some thoughts. Is my coffee bar open? It is not open. I don't know when it's ever going to open. Yeah, things are just taking so much longer than I ever imagined. Busa says Middle River. Yes, Middle River. The one in Middle River is the one that I usually go to just because it's closer to me. Busa says that Matthew's Grill in Gaithersburg has some good food as well. Oh, there's a Matthew's Grill? Okay, I'll put that in my list. Purple Patch. Didn't Purple Patch close? Or was it, what was the other one? Purple Yam. No, not Purple Yam. That's owned by, that closed, but that was up in New York. What's the one that closed? Yeah, the one problem though, like Busa, is that, you go to some of these places, like, this is one of my things about Hiraya, right? It's like, we went there, we ate a ton of stuff, right? And I'm so open to like seeing new interpretations of Filipino cuisine. Like I really am open to that. But sometimes the execution is just kind of strange. Like they had the what was it? Truffle ensimada. Was it truffle ensimada? And you know what? The truffle ensimada. And so if you're not familiar with ensimada, the ensimada is basically kind of like a sweetened bread kind of thing, right? Maybe somewhat similar to the pandesal, but a little bit sweeter and definitely moister. And it comes in this like big like mold like this. And then you put like butter and sugar and cheese on it. And it's like, it is truly one of the like central pastries of Philippine cuisine. Like it is central to our existence and our being, right? But you go to this place and they had this one, it's like truffle. I'm like, why would you want, I don't think it's truffle. That seems kind of like, that seems to me a bit like gratuitous, right? Like, does it need truffle? Does it need truffle? But I was like, okay, let's try it. So small, so it's not like this copious like ensimada you get at like some bakeries. It's this small diminutive size for like $13. $13 for this one like truffle ensimada. Okay, now I'm not against $13 for an ensimada. Like I'm not against that. But I would like it to be some of the best ensimada I've ever had in my entire existence. Right? Like I want to tell my friends, be like, dude, you need to run down there and buy this ensimada right away. Like, just drop everything and go. This thing was dry and like, it was just not good. It just wasn't even good. I was like, so again, back to Busa's thing, it's the hipster thing. It's like, it's definitely more for hipsters. And I kind of come to the point where I feel like the hipster thing is not a good thing. It's just extreme. It's just like gratuitous stuff. Like I remember one of the first times that I really came across this was probably about 2008. We were in Portland, Oregon. I probably told this story before, but one of my good friends, Dwayne Sorensen, who founded Stumptown Coffee Roasters, he was like, dude, you need to go to this ramen joint. It's really awesome. Awesome. Let's go check it out. So we went, my friends and I went. We ordered this ramen, tonkotsu broth ramen, right? So if you guys are familiar with ramen here in America, most of it's tonkotsu broth. So it's pork-based broth where they bring it to a rolling boil so that it leaches out the cloudiness from the bones, right? So it gives that, what is it, Naomi? It's a Hokkaido style, is that right? Hokkaido from the north. But for whatever reason, it's super popular in America. I grew up eating more chicken broth, like shoyu ramen, clear ramen. I love that more than tonkotsu. And everybody does tonkotsu. And everybody does it like so like meh. And I'm just like, oh God. But anyway, back then, it was still relatively fresh, right? So we ordered it. And the tonkotsu broth is like super powerful. Like it's like you went to Ippudo. Like, if the guys that run the place must have gone to Ippudo in Tokyo, right? That they do tonkotsu broth and they do this ridiculously crazy like ramen. But they have this very mas fuerte kind of like broth. And then they put these big chunks of like pork belly in them. Like, what is this big chunk of pork belly? What the hell is that, right? And then they give you this teeny tiny noodle, like vermicelli, like level noodle. You're like, what in the world is this? If you're going to have a heavy broth, you need to have balance to that, right? And the balance doesn't come with like ridiculously overdone pork belly. It comes from having a meatier, toothier noodle to stand up to the broth. You're Japanese. You tell me if I'm wrong in this, but to me, Japanese cuisine is really about balance, finding that balance. And these guys were just like, we want to hit you with the broth and we want to make it awesome. And this is the best in America. And I was like, this is just terrible. Terrible. I was like, and so this is what reminded me of these hipster joints. Like, it's like they try so hard to do so much that it's just like you're missing it. Like you're missing it. Like if you go to Manila or the Philippines and you try they have these newer versions. They have these new generation of fusion, and I don't even know if it's fusion, but like new interpretations of Filipino cuisine. And some of them are like truly amazing because they understand the cuisine, they understand the culture, they understand where to push and where to pull on the dish. Like if you go to a place called Locavor in Manila, they have this dish called kare-kare wings, which are basically chicken wings and a kare-kare sauce, which is a peanut-based sauce. Very different than like a Thai satay sauce or satay sauce. So not as sweet, but but the way they bring out the delicate flavors of the peanut sauce, and then they balance it with the shrimp paste, the bagoong. Man, I just can't. Every time I go to Manila, I'm like, I got to go to Locavor because I just have to go and eat this because it's just so amazing. So they do things like that. So I'm like totally talking too much now about that. But Matthew's Grill, that's right. I went with Matthew's Grill on my map, so I'm going to go put that in here. Matthew's Grill. I'm putting this in here, Busa, so that I will remember to try that out. Recommended by Busa. Okay, I got it. Espresso Bike says the baker's son, Filipino bakery from Jacksonville, just opened a location in Houston. Jacksonville, Florida, or is there a Jacksonville in Texas? Sorry, I'm not too familiar. Because we even have a Jacksonville here in Maryland, which I'm pretty sure that's not from there. Say they go through about 300 pounds of ube a week. I mean, I don't know. Are they legit? I mean, you should. I don't know if you're there, but I mean, if I'd ask them, where do you get the ube from? Because like, if we're really truly increasing the consumption of ube, which evidently the consumption of ube is, or at least ube flavored products is increasing, especially in the United States, demand is super high. How is it possible that ube production in the Philippines is dropping? Like farmers are abandoning their like these crops because they're just no one's buying it. So I mean, I don't know. Like I don't know. Is it 300 pounds of true ube or is it 300 pounds of purple yams, purple potatoes, things like that? That's the question that I would have. Like, because you could take like if you don't really know the flavor of the product, or maybe you're part of the diaspora and you've been so separated from the product for so many years, your recollection is not that clear. As long as it tastes close. Like I'll go to places and have ube lattes, and they have their sweetness, and they may have some semblance to the flavor of ube that I remember, but I don't know. I can't say because I don't know their operations, and I don't have any people in there. Busa says that most traditional establishments won't make it in DC. The younger generation want more diversity outside the box. You know, and I don't mind all of that, right? But I would like to see them bring more. I don't mind you elevating the flavors, the cuisine, the approach. Like I don't necessarily want to go to a place and spend. I don't necessarily like going to turo places either. Don't get me wrong, right? I'll do if I have to, like if that's what's available and that's what I'm in the mood for. Sure, not a problem. So I don't mind the elevated approach. I would just like you to like actually bring me something really exciting. Like what I had at Hirayo wasn't. If you're part of the uninitiated to the cuisine, you'll probably find it really great. But if you are initiated to the cuisine, I didn't find it stunning. Like I want to be like I go to Locavor and I had the first time I had the kare-kare wings, like I was like, holy God, this is great. Or if I go to what is that place called? There's a place called Manam in Manila too. You go to Manam, and they had this pancit bihon, which is the thin vermicelli style noodle dish that's really popular. But they have it in a version where they do black squid ink. Oh God, so amazing. And then Locavor also had something called it's called crispy sinigang. Right, so sinigang is our dish where you take like beef or whatever you do, but beef, and you create a soup that's very sour from the green tamarind, right? So you create this sour soup, but they do this one where they take the beef and I forgot exactly how they do it, but it's kind of a dry presentation of the sinigang. But man, it's so good. It's so you can do these new interpretations of our cuisine. But I think that we just kind of are stuck in this kind of like hipster mindset. There's a certain formula of hipsterism for cuisine that I think people follow. And I don't know. Who am I to say? They're doing well. These restaurants do well, and a lot of people love their food. So, who am I to say those things, right? Devin says that's like a $6 baguette. Actually, I had an $8 baguette, right? I was at this market in Rockville, Maryland. I stopped by. There is a next to the Japanese market. There's a place called what's the place what's the market on Rockville Pike called, Naomi? Maruichi Market. In a couple doors down from Maruichi Market is this like Polish market. Polish or something, but they sell, it's a kielbasa. It's basically a kielbasa house. Like you go there and they have this deli counter and you're like, I never knew there were so many kielbasas in the world, right? And I posted about this on my Instagram a few months back when I was there, and I was like, and they had this bread. They had a bread rack, and I was like, oh, that baguette looks really good. So I grabbed the baguette, I grabbed I bought some wedding kielbasa, and I grabbed the bread. Wedding kielbasa was pretty good. I don't want to try some of the other ones, but like the bread, when she rang up the empanada, I was like, oh, okay, $35. What? Turns out the loaf of baguette was $8. I was like, $8 for baguette, or whatever it was. I remember I bitched about it on my Instagram a little bit. And the bakery, I tagged the bakery, and they messaged me. They were like, "How much did they charge you?" And I was like, $8. And I don't know if they pulled their account because I didn't see it after that point. The next time I went down, they didn't have any bread. But I don't know if that's because I was there on a day where they don't have the bread, right? They maybe only deliver like once a week. But I was like, I was like, that's expensive. But I ate this bread, man. It's like a sourdough baguette, and I'm not a fan of sourdough normally, but this bread, man, it was so good. Like I ended up I can't eat a whole loaf in time for it before it goes stale, right? So I ended up slicing it, thin slice, freezing it, and then I would break it out for my like cheese and heat it up and like crisp it up for the cheese. Man, it's so much better than most baguettes that I've had. It was really great. So if you look on my Instagram, go back a couple months, and I'm bitching about a baguette, that is hella good baguette. Like it's hella good. This is what I'm saying. If it's hella good, I love it. Booster says Bad Saint was the one that closed down. Yes, Bad Saint. Thank you so Bad Saint is actually one of the principals of Bad Saint is one of my childhood friends, right? Nick is one of my childhood friends. We all grew up together. And it was funny because my mom was telling, because his mom, Tita Mirna, is good friends with my mom. And my mom one day, this is like several years ago, she's like, Tita Mirna went to Nick's restaurant and she had to wait in line. And I was like, what? I was like, dude. I saw her sister, because I haven't seen Nick in a while. I said, her sister's Patty, right? His sister's Patty. Like, Patty said, Patty, I heard your mom waited outside the restaurant. She's like, yeah. I was like, what? She's like, I know, I can't believe it. And I was like, I would be hella embarrassed if my mom had to wait outside for a table at my restaurant. And Filipino moms are like that, right? Or moms in general like that. They want support. Like my mom, she watches the YouTube videos. I don't know why. I'm like, you don't even have an account. She's like, I want to support your channel, like get more views. I said, but you don't have an account. You're just watching on like a guest account. the views don't count. Right? I'm like, I appreciate it, but you don't have to do that. But like, I remember saying like, man, I was like I don't, even if I had the most popular restaurant in America at the time, like Nick did, like, I would feel hella embarrassed, like if my mom was waiting outside for a table. Like, I know moms, they're willing to do that. They're more than happy to do that to support their children. Right? That's a beautiful thing. But I remember, like, I think as seeing myself, like if I was in that situation, I'd be like, I would just jump over the people. I'd be like, I'm sorry. I'm like, people get mad. I say, I'm sorry. This is my mom. I'm not going to make her wait outside. Like, simple as like, I'll give you I'll come part of your meal, but I'm certainly not going to make my mom wait, right? But funny stuff. But that's it. That was. I never made it down, to be honest with you, because another one of my friends was one of their investors, and he always raved about it. He was like, "This is really excellent. Like, it's really great. You really should come." And I was like, "I know. I'm so lazy to drive to DC." Booster says, I'm on both sides of the fence when it comes down to the traditional versus non-traditional cooking. I love both. I totally agree. And don't get me wrong. I do agree with you. Like, I like, but if you're going to offer, but to me, it's a little bit, I like the experimentation, but I guess I only like it when I find it successful. Otherwise, it's kind of like weird aberrations. It's like, how do you create a dish that, and this is what we think about, like when I think about Spro and the stuff we've offered on our food menu as well as our coffee menus, how do we provide hopefully something that is somewhat original? Nothing's truly original, but something that is somewhat original, but is familiar enough for the people to be comfortable with it, right? And it's like I've been to a lot of the fine dining restaurants over the years, and I think that's what really makes a great restaurant truly great, right? Like I've been to places like Alinea, and if you're familiar with Alinea is a restaurant that's run by a chef named Grant Achatz. Actually, my old companion, she went to go work for him as his executive development chef, but. Very avant-garde, very experimental, very intellectual food. Really an experience well worth trying at least once. Compare that to something like the French Laundry. Actually, where Grant came from was the French Laundry. It's very highly elevated food, but there's something about it that just speaks to you at least spoke to me on such a guttural level. It was like, it's like the movie Ratatouille, right? When Egon, the reviewer, was served the Ratatouille, right? Super fancy presentation, right? Everything's sliced, not the like the hemajang stew that normally it is, right? He ate that and he was transported instantaneously to his childhood, something like that. So I think that truly great food experiences transport you to something, bring you to something, to your core, speak to your core, right? Like I was at the I went to Per Se, which is French Laundry's New York location. And it was wildly expensive at the time. Like at the time, we spent $500 a person. And we had, my chef friends made fun of me after because I showed them pictures and they were like, what wine did you get? I said, well, we bought the Pouilly Foussé. And if you know Pouilly Foussé, the Louis Jadot Pouilly Foussé, it's a very pedestrian white wine, right? It's very simple, very affordable. It's certainly not... But I've already spent $500, right? Like I think we spent a total each of, I think it was $500 total. Sounds like we went all out on the menu, but I was like, I gotta pull back on the we can't go buy crazy wine. Like we can't get like I would love to order like a bottle of the Perron Chateauneuf, right? The one from Chateau de Beaucastel. Love to order that. But, in there it's going to be like a vintage Beaucastel is probably going to cost like $500. And I was like, oh, God. We can't afford that. Can I have it by the glass? Puis by the glass. So at the time, this meal was wildly expensive. But I remember sitting there almost to the end of the meal. And I remember thinking to myself, if I could get another reservation, and if I had another $500, I would do it again tomorrow. Like that's how much I enjoyed. I was like, I would do it again tomorrow. Like if I get a reservation and I had another $500 to burn, I would totally do it again, and do it the next night so I could have it like I could savor the experience again. So that to me is like really that's kind of what we would strive. I like to. At Spro, we try to strive for our in-house experience. We want to hopefully bring a really great experience that people want to return for. Like one that gives you value. Like for example, that $13 ensaymada. Like if had it been awesome, like I have no problems, recommending people go try it and spend that money on it. Like you'd be like, yeah, go do it. It's awesome. But it wasn't awesome. And that's where to me the faltering comes. Busa says the younger palate can't handle the stronger flavors, so they have to tone down. Do they tone down the flavors now? Because I always feel like to me hipster always means excessive flavoring. Like they go out of balance, right? They're just being too assertive with the flavors because they think it's good. To me, it's kind of like the whole craft beer and especially coffee thing, where it's, to my mind, to my taste, right? Like craft beer has gone to this world of heavy IPAs, heavy hops. Like you want so much hops that it tastes like you're drinking marijuana. And conversely, in the world, especially coffee, it's like high-noted, high-altitude, high-brightness coffees. Like everybody wants these high-brightness coffees, and there's so much lauding happening, and I'm just like, there's no balance to that. Like it's just all brightness, all acid. Like why do I want that? Like that's why I don't really roast those kind of coffees that way, because it's like there's no balance there. Like I want balance in flavor. I don't want extremity, right? So, but I'm interested. I mean, I'm interested that that's the perception. Purchase product price. Okay. I gotcha. All right. Well, we've already exceeded our time limit for today. Sorry for all the babbling. My goodness. Well, so we've had our Lavazza, which is surprised. So the Lavazza, which is called the Lavazza Cafe Filtro Gran Filtro, fairly surprisingly not so great hot cold. A little bit more, dirtier cold. Earthy when it's hot, dirtier as it gets cold. Yeah, all right. Well, that's enough. That's enough of my pontificating on ridiculousness. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Coffee Q&A. We're here every Monday through Friday, or most Monday through Fridays, 10 a.m. Eastern. We'll be back again tomorrow, but I think tomorrow we're going to be back on the road because, holiday's over. Now time to make deliveries. So, yeah, that was we had our coffee from Lavazza. We had Pandesal from my cousin, and we had the Pianono, Ube Pianono from Antoinette. Thank you, Antoinette. And thank you, Raymond. And thank you, Lavazza, for your coffee. And thank you, Mom. Good to see you. Mom, Busa, Espresso and Bikes, Kent, Devin, Naomi, Peter, all of you, so great to see you. And I hope you have a wonderful day or evening, depending where you are. Back again tomorrow with another Coffee Q&A. So, and if you're not busy and not doing anything monumentally interesting, and you want to see me babble more about coffee and cigars, we do the Coffee and Cigars live stream for the Thursday Night Hang every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, not on this channel, but on the alternate channel called Ono Live, basically ONOLIVE. So that's just another way. If you want to hang out a little bit more, come join us there. If not, see you next time. And until then,